Swashbucklers, you're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 79. My name is Phil Johnson. I'm your host for the show. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for telling your friends. If you have not told a friend lately about the show, go drag somebody off the street and yell, "You want to listen to Under the Crossbones?" Do that right now. I'll wait. Okay, we good? All right. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Episode number 79. Fun fact about the number 79. We know it's a prime number, right? Prime number is not divisible by, I don't remember, 2? I can't remember now. Not divisible by, I can't remember what a prime number is. Oh, yeah, I was a physics major at one point. Good for me. But not only is it a prime number, it is a happy prime, a lucky prime, and a sexy prime. Yes, those are all real mathematical terms. And I looked at the descriptions of them and I was like, nope, I don't understand what that means. So if you want to find out what a happy prime, a lucky prime, and a sexy prime is, go to Wikipedia and put those little excerpts. I'll link them up in the show notes. Why not? I'll link them. Oh, you could come on over to the show notes, underthecrossbones.com/079, and you can find out what a happy prime, a lucky prime, and a sexy prime are. There are also twin primes and cousin primes, and they have nothing to do with the sexy primes, just so you know, in most countries. Anyway, my guest on the show today is Baylus Brooks, and Bayless is the author of the book called Quest for Blackbeard, and he has done a bunch of new research leading him to some pretty new and interesting ideas in the Blackbeard story. We're always trying to find out who Blackbeard was, where he came from, where he's going, what his motivations were, all that kind of stuff. And Baylus Brooks has done a bunch of new research into the story that I think you will find very interesting. Plus, you can hear him take such huge joy in these discoveries that it's just fun listening to the guy, right? He's got this great giggle. You're gonna love. Side note: I did this interview on a new recording system, a different recording system than I've been using in the past, and it's working pretty well. I've done 3 or 4 interviews on it now, but this is the first one that I did, and the sound is slightly wonky in some places. So just so you know, a little bit of a learning curve happening for me on this interview, but it's going to be good. It's still a fun listen, and upcoming interviews will, some of them will use this same system, and some of them will not, because it's got qualifications. Anyway, so my birthday's coming up next week on March 2nd. I had to think about that for a second, really? March 2nd, my birthday's coming up. So, but this week, this is the good week, sort of the week before my birthday, because this is when the birthday coupons start arriving. And you know the birthday coupons, when you're at a restaurant or a fast food place or something, they go, sign up for our thing and we'll send you a free something on your birthday. Well, I sign up for all of those. So a week before my birthday, I get just this deluge of food coupons. Of free this and free that and free this and free that. And it's always a fun game each year to see how many of them I can actually get to using, because they do expire within like 2 weeks or something. How many of them I can actually get to use, and how many I will use, and then how much weight I will gain right around my birthday. Always a fun game. I've been doing pretty good, though. I've lost 10 pounds. I'm trying not to put it back on. So, but yeah, this week, all the birthday coupons are coming up, and it's just going to be junk food heaven that I don't have to pay for, which is always great. That's all right. I'm going to go on vacation right after that, and I'm going to walk it off while I eat more food, because that's what I do on vacation. But before that, there are things happening. I got tour dates. I got shows. I did some shows this past weekend that were really fun and very cool. And I'm working on a new bit about smooth jazz. I've been hammering that one for the last couple weeks on stage, and it's starting to come together finally. And really, if you're a smooth jazz fan, I'm sorry, because you won't like the bit. I guarantee that. But it's coming along pretty good. I'm excited to get that one going. So you can, if you want to see me do the smooth jazz bit, I do have shows coming up. Thursday, February the 23rd, that's this Thursday, I will be headlining a show at the Milk Bar in San Francisco, California, which is a crazy place. It used to be called Club Boomerang back in the day, and my band used to play Club Boomerang once every month, every other month, something like that. And it was like this long, skinny room. It's still a long, skinny room, but a long, skinny room, and they had a stage that was about 5 feet off the floor and not very big, right? So I used to have nightmares. Like the night before playing a gig at the Boomerang, I would have nightmares about falling off of this stage, because there was like 6 of us on this tiny little stage that's 5 feet in the air when I'm like right on the edge. And I never did actually fall off the stage, but I think it was just extra carefulness on my part after having so many nightmares about falling off of that stage. But now the place is called Milk Bar, and they have a shorter stage and a bigger stage, and I have no fear of falling off of that one. So come out February 23rd and see me headline at the Milk Bar. Friday, February the 24th, I will be at the Setup at 222 Hyde in San Francisco, which is a great club, underground basement of a classic jazz club. Real tight, perfect comedy room. It's fantastic. Thursday, March the 16th, I will be at the Monkey Business Comedy Club at the Camden Eye in London, England. Yeah, gonna be fun doing some jokes in London, trying to remember which jokes aren't gonna work in London. Like I can't do my Labor Day joke because they don't have Labor Day. So I have to think about things like that before I go over there. Mostly we're going over for a vacation in London, but I am going to do a set while I'm there at Monkey Business on a Thursday, March the 16th. And then as soon as we get back, doing a bunch of shows. March 21st, I'll be at O'Malley's in Mountain View, California. March 22nd, I will be somewhere in Santa Rosa, California, to be announced. I don't have the details on that one yet, but I know I'll be up there. March the 23rd, that's a Thursday, I will be at the Office in Ukiah, California. Friday, March 24th, Spice Monkey, Oakland, California. And Sunday, March 26th, at the Crow's Nest in Santa Cruz, California. Those are all headlining shows. And the Crow's Nest, hey, if you like your comedy with a little bit of Pacific Ocean mixed in, they're right next to each other at that show. The Crow's Nest is right on the coast in Santa Cruz, and you can see the show from the window of the restaurant should you not want to be watching my show. So there's that. So lots more tour dates. Go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the tour dates button, and you can see all where I'm going to be there. I've got a bunch of Midwest dates coming up, things like that. If you're digging the show, and I hope you are, we're going to get to the interview here in a minute, but make sure you hook up with us on Facebook. Facebook.com/underthecrossbones, Twitter.com/undercrossbones, no the. And make sure you hit the show notes for this episode too, where you'll be able to find out different kinds of prime numbers and links to my guest and all sorts of other stuff. Underthecrossbones.com/079. If you would like to donate to the show, that would be awesome of you. You would be very cool if you were to do that. Go to underthecrossbones.com/support. There's a little PayPal box there. You dump whatever amount of money you feel is appropriate in that box, and it will come to me. Minus a tiny PayPal fee. So if it's 5 cents, I'm going to get 2 cents. Don't do that. But I appreciate any donation you put in there. There's an Amazon banner. If you go click the Amazon banner, you go buy yourself something nice over at Amazon, like the new Kindle Fire I just bought myself, or maybe you want to buy Baylus Brooks' new book, Quest for Blackbeard, or any of the books of my many other author guests and things like that. Click the Amazon banner, go over there, buy yourself something nice. Amazon kicks me back a little something, and it doesn't cost you anything. So that's easy to do. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, that is also easy to do. Hit that support page, underthecrossbone.com/support, and you can email me from there, and we will hook you up on how to sponsor the show. All right. Let's get into my interview with author of Quest for Blackbeard, Baylus Brooks. Enjoy. You are an author of many books, of long books, short books, all sorts of history books about areas of the Southeast and pirates. And your latest is Blackbeard Reconsidered, and Blackbeard seems to be a focus for you. So tell me a little bit about Blackbeard Reconsidered and what it's about, and then we'll kind of dig into your history a little bit.
Okay. Blackbeard Reconsidered is an exploration of Edward Teach's family history, really. I didn't intend to write this, and a lot of people will say this, there's so many other theories about his family history, but I came across this information when I was writing a blog, actually.
Okay.
And it was based on the theories of the genealogist from Beaufort County, North Carolina, and Kevin Duffus, who had championed that also. And it was about him being the possible son of James Beard. And I wanted to I thought this is an interesting idea, so I wanted to write about it. But I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything obviously out there saying that Edward Teach was from Jamaica, because most people believed that he was from Jamaica and before this. And I thought, well, let me look and see, because there's a lot of digitization going on right now, and there may be actual records out there showing that. So I did a quick search on Ancestry.com, and I put in Edward Teach from Jamaica.
Okay.
Have you got one? And I got a hit. And I was just as floored as anybody that I could possibly get a hit on this. And I immediately looked at the source of the information, and it said Latter-day Saints, the church, genealogy. So I asked the interlibrary loan at ECU, Joiner, and I said, can we get these records? Can we get these microfilm records? And she said, well, I can, but they're online. All you have to do is go look at them. And I went, really? So I'm like, you're kidding me, right? So I looked at the records. They had the baptisms transcribed, but not the marriages and the burials. I had to look those up visually. So I looked up I found the family, the Edward Teach and Lucretia, his wife, and there was a son, Cox, a daughter, Rachel, and a son, Thomas, and they were all born from 1700 to 1705.
Okay.
So the thing is, it put it in the right range. And a little more exploration, especially through the visual searches through the marriages and burials. And I was able to put the whole family together. And I sent off the information to the Register General's office in Jamaica. And I didn't ask them for information on Blackbeard because I tried that once before. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I said, have you got any information on this family? And they sent me back 6 documents or six references. And I had a lady, Diane, I can't remember her name right now. That's weird. Anyway, I asked her to look these up for me. And she sent me back some copies of different records. And one of the records put the entire family together, just that one record. And in that record, it had Edward Teach, apparently a younger Edward Teach, not the father. And he was serving on the HMS Windsor at the time, and his father had just died. And he was bequeathing his inheritance, because according to the rules of primogeniture, the oldest male child gets all the property.
Right.
And he was bequeathing this land, this inheritance to his family, to his stepmother Lucretia, to his brother and sister Thomas and Rachel. He didn't mention Cox, but I figure that's because Cox was probably apprenticed to someone else. Mm-hmm. And in the whole process, I'm like, oh my God. This is Blackbeard right here, and I said, it's got to be him. So I said, well, maybe it's a different family. Maybe there's a bunch of Teaches living on Jamaica or something. And
right.
I looked for other families. There are no other Teach families on Jamaica, none. And I said, oh my God, I've got it.
So then Blackbeard, born in Jamaica, is that where you're finding that?
Well, apparently not. The first record for the family was January 1699, and that was for the death of Elizabeth Teach.
Okay.
And 6 months later, Edward Teach remarries to Lucretia Ethel.
Okay.
Now, that was a married name for her. I found out that she was married twice. Her original maiden name was Lucretia Poquet, or Poquette. She was probably French Huguenot. She married a John Maverly first, had a child with him, John Maverly III, and then she married Nathaniel Ethel Jr. Uh-huh. And then he died, and then after that she married Edward Teach after his wife died. And it was 6 months, I think in June or July, that they got married, right after his first wife had died. And then the children came along, the 3 children, And I found a record for another French Huguenot, Jean Velasquez, who had married an Elizabeth Teach, who was probably Blackbeard's sister, from his full sister. And then one other record, I thought, well, because of the records that I got from the Register General's office, there was one of them in there that said it didn't mention Cox again. I figured, like I said, he was probably apprenticed, probably to an artilleryman in Kingston, and it said in the records here that, or was going to be apprenticed. He was too young, I think, at the time, but he had a godfather, in other words. And in these records, it mentioned Rachel and Thomas, but it also mentioned another Elizabeth.
Okay.
A young Elizabeth, somebody who must have been a baby. And so I'm thinking, well, the only person who could be this girl's father was Blackbeard. So it's got to be his kid. I mean, there's no other Teaches on the island. I mean, you know, she's not a slave. She's a full-fledged member of the family here.
Interesting.
So I'm like, you know, the mystery of who this girl was. And I've actually been in contact with the man she married, his family, the Barhams in Kent.
Okay.
And we've had interesting discussions on that, but they were trying to. It's interesting. So many people have written about him, but they never knew he was married to Elizabeth Teach.
Yeah.
The Jamaican church records actually showed that, though.
Huh. Interesting. I imagine having Blackbeard as your brother-in-law might be nerve-wracking a little bit.
Well, the interesting thing is what I've been finding out about the guy is he was raised well. He was educated. He probably served as an officer on the Windsor. He probably didn't go in, you know, he wasn't shanghaied or pressed in the service like so many others. The man was well-to-do. They owned a plantation. They were a little bit more of what you might call the upper class of the citizenry.
Okay.
And they owned numerous slaves. I identified about 4 or 5 of them already. And it's very likely that he was an educated man and well respected by his peers. I don't think that people feared him. I think that they actually tried to help support him in his endeavors. And they believed that it was the right thing to do.
Why would that be? Why do you think they supported him in being a pirate?
Because at that time, piracy in the West Indies was basically the way everybody did things. You know, privateering and piracy. It was the West Indies were founded basically to steal everything Spain had. You know, they wanted to run them out of the West Indies because Spain owned everything in the West Indies.
Uh-huh.
And they had been making inroads on that for quite a while. But the English had gotten a little bit disgusted with pirates and pirate privateers because they began raiding their stuff. Once the English started gaining territories and possessions, the pirates really didn't care, you know, who it belonged
Sure.
to. They wanted to take it. And so they started preying on England. I think that's when England got a little liberal when it came to this particular matter and decided to put a stop to it about 1680 or so. Around the time of the Glorious Revolution in 1688, I figure.
That's really interesting. So the stories I've always heard have placed his birth in Bristol, England. Were you able to sort of, you know, track any of that back to England early on?
That really, that was the one thing of Johnson's that, you know, Charles Johnson, the author of the General History of the Pirates. And the one thing that he had mentioned that I could find nowhere else, and I'm assuming that he was in contact with somebody who knew him. Uh-huh. In fact, the father, the Henry Barham, the father, the man who married Elizabeth Teach, was in London for some time in 1719, and he was living on the same street with the guy who probably wrote a general history, Nathaniel Mist. Great Carter Lane, I believe it was. And it's entirely possible that he actually met the guy, the father-in-law of Blackbeard's sister, and maybe got a lot of information from him. But I'm pretty sure that Bristol was probably a valid idea. So I looked for the family in that area, and or anybody. I'm looking for an Edward Teach born somewhere in around Bristol, and couldn't find one in Bristol itself because Bristol's records are completely obliterated from many different things, including World War II, the bombings.
Sure.
So I couldn't find anything in Bristol, but I did find in Gloucestershire, which is where Bristol's at, that there was an Edward Teach born in Stonehouse in Gloucestershire at, I think it was 1659. So it was the perfect time because he would have been 21 years old in 1680, around when Teach was born. I also found will records for his mother and Rachel Teach, whose name was Rachel, by the way. And his father was Thomas. And you remember two of his kids with the Lucretia was Thomas and Rachel. And so there's just a lot of coincidences here, And in the will record, it says that she was giving. Basically, she was bequeathing certain parts of her estate, the land. She's giving it to all of her children, except for Edward and Philip. They had 5 pounds each. They didn't get land. So I was thinking, why didn't they get land? Or maybe they weren't there.
Right.
If Edward was in Jamaica at the time, then why would she, give him land? Because he's not going to be able to do anything with it. Sure. This was in 1705 that she died. So it's and he would have been in Jamaica having his son Thomas was being born about that time. So
interesting.
I think that this is his family. And I made a genealogical chart out of it. I've been doing genealogy for 35 years, so this was very easy for me. And so I put this chart together, but I made sure that everybody knows that the Bristol connection is still to be proven. Although another fellow I've been working with, Mark Martinez, is going to be helping me with that. So I think we can probably get that eventually. Oh, I do want to make one correction about the latest book.
Sure.
The pamphlet that you're talking about is a 43-page pamphlet put out by the North Carolina Publications.
Okay.
And the Department of History. And I have recently just published an expanded version called Quest for Blackbeard. I call it The True Story of Edward Teach and His World. And you can find it. It's out now. It's been out since September. It's on Lulu, Amazon, all the usual stuff. So it's a huge expansion of everything that's in that pamphlet.
Where do you think the disconnect came in of sorts? How did he go from sort of aristocratic, educated man about town who does pirating basically as a business, as his gig? How did he become the fearsome guy with the incense in his beard and smoking? I mean, all that was probably part of the job. But where do you think the villainy part came in as far as history tells it?
I think the villainy part is all the invention of Charles Johnson or Nathaniel Mist. It was the British at the time, like I said, they were trying to get away from piracy, trying to basically say that this is hurting us. We don't need to keep doing it anymore. And I just think that the West Indians, Americans, were so into it because it was something that was very beneficial for them, that they didn't want to give it up. And like I said, his family supported him. And I think that the colonies all supported him. And there are many authors who actually agree with this now. I mentioned them in the book. Can't think of them right now, but anyway, they're there. And there's 670 pages, so I can't remember everything I wrote.
Sure.
It was a lot. I didn't want to do this before. I told you, I didn't want to do pirate history because I knew there was so much junk out there that what I was going to have to do was basically, tear it all apart and then put it back together.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that. We're talking about what I thought would take a lifetime. It didn't take quite that long, but it was still a very daunting task for me to undertake.
Yeah, I'm sure. So let's dig back into your own history a little bit. What came first, being a writer, being a pirate fan, being a historian? Where do you come from that brought you to being a pirate writer now?
That's a strange story. I started off in my educational background is mostly scientific.
Oh.
I went to school, got a degree in mathematics and physics.
Oh.
And got out of school for about 20 years and went into the workforce. And I got ill. I had health problems, and I had to get out of the workforce. And I thought, well, what do I do with myself now? And but I've always enjoyed history. I'd always done genealogy. I've been working on my family history since I was 16.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, let's go to history. I know a lot of history now. I've really been into it for so long, and I've really enjoyed it. And I went back to school, and I got another degree in American colonial history. And then I got into the graduate school at ECU, the Maritime Studies program. And I've always been interested in the maritime history, and pirates too, but pirates from a fun perspective. I sometimes play a pirate, actually, because I'm good at it. But I also like that. I just didn't want to, I didn't want to do the research because I knew how troublesome it was going to be.
Sure.
But so I got into it, and that's when I met Kevin, and when I started talking, of course, they were doing the excavations for the QAR. And I got into some of the conservation work because of my scientific background. And I had a good time with these guys. And I got more interested in it a little bit, and I started doing little stories on my blog about this. And next thing you know, I make this extraordinary discovery while I'm sitting in my underwear in a chair.
That's neat. What kind of conservation work were you doing with the QAR crew?
Well, I wasn't really working on the ship itself. Like I said, I'm broken, so I did some work in the lab. I took a class in conservation, and we worked on some of the materials from the QAR, and I did some sideline projects with the CSS Noose in Kinston, and no, that was separate. Anyway, I went to Maine for a study there, and we just had a lot of fun. But like I said, I love maritime, and this was really my kind of swan song. I just wanted to do what I liked, and but I've always been a very academic kind of person. So
nice. You and I actually have something in common. I originally was a physics major in college, and
really?
I did not get the degree. I got through Calculus 3 and failed that again, and then decided I was going to go get a degree in music instead. So
electromagnetism got me.
There you go. So you have another book that kind of caught my eye, where Pirates and Slaves: The Making of America. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Right. Pirates and Slaves is basically a collection of stories about pirates. Now, for one thing, I put this out, and I was still working on pirates and trying to get all this information in my head together about how I was going to approach my study of pirates, because now I had to, and So I put it's really kind of a staccato kind of histories of all these things thrown together.
Okay.
Plus some of my study of the family in North Carolina, which was sort of a group of people, very wealthy, very influential very conservative people. And studying all of them, I sort of realized that, we are pirates. that we are descended of the same people who created piracy. And it's like we're really not that far removed from that the old Stuart conservatism of England. What basically you might have think of them as Jacobites. You've probably heard of those guys.
Sure. Yep.
They basically founded our country, and it was the English who backed off from all this. They got rid of their monarch, James III. That's where all the Jacobite wars came from. They got rid of him and instituted a basically puppet monarch with Parliament strongly in power at that point. And then they started anti-piracy legislation. So England was backing out of the game. They're like, okay, this is too violent for us. We're tired of it. We're taking a lot of heat for what's going on with you guys. So in other words, they basically tried to I guess, make America take some lithium. Like, you guys need to calm down. So when I wrote this book, I was basically just formulating all my ideas.
Okay.
One thing I will say is that the book Pirates and Slaves is basically all the stuff that's in there except for the last chapter is included in my new book about Edward Teach.
Oh, interesting.
The last chapter is more in depth on the family and what they did in the Lower Cape Fear, North Carolina, and so that really didn't pertain to Edward, but or Eddie as I call him, and I think that one didn't work. But the idea was that I was presenting the idea that America was basically formed from a pirate community or a privateer type community, which is really the same thing.
Sure.
Privateer is someone who's officially sanctioned by a government to prey on the ships of others. A pirate just does it for himself.
Right.
So, in fact, that's more American.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about studying the pirate history and their work with slaves is that pirate fans everywhere would love to think that slavery with pirates was had some sort of altruistic intent to it, when in most likely circumstances it was just business, right?
Yep, sure was.
Yeah.
Now, Teach, for instance, he, when he took the Concorde, the one he became the QAR, when he took that ship, he had his choice of somewhere around 500 slaves. He could have had all that stuff, but he didn't have room for them on his ship. And, of course, he had to take care of them, had to feed them. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. That's too much work. So he took 60 of them, but he gave the rest of them back to the French captain. And they ran off to, where was it? Anyway, there's another island in that chain near Martinique, and he ran off with he just gave them back. And then there's there's French records in Quest for Blackbeard that I talk about that most people haven't seen those yet. And if you study the French records in detail, they describe a lot of other ships that Blackbeard took when he was, after he took the QAR, and his relations with people, there, because what it was the French governor of the island of Martinique was complaining to the French government about what was going on. And he described in detail the money that was taken, the people that were abused. I'm sure they were wealthy French citizens or something. And these records also describe a possible raid of Petit Goave on Hispaniola, in the French half of Hispaniola, by 17 pirate vessels. They said that they had planned this. And the Jean Martel, a French pirate, another thing that Johnson got wrong, by the way, mentions that they're coming there, and the reason he wanted to give them warning was because his sister-in-law lived there. There's a town there that I found out named Martell.
Oh, okay.
Probably named for his family, and his sister, and it's real close to Petit Guave too. So, but Petit Guave is a place that was very familiar to Edward Teach because that's where he served when he was in the Queen Anne's War. And he served on the HMS Windsor, and the Windsor did a lot of activity against the French in Petit Guave. And I think that it was possible that Edward Teach probably convinced them to do this because Jamaicans were always beset by the French. They really hated the French, I think, more than the Spanish. And he took a French vessel.
Uh-huh.
You know, he raided French territory. They planned a pirate attack, a huge pirate flotilla, an armada, really, against Petit Guave, you know, a French territory. And I just think it was, you know, for him, that was what he really had in his mind was the hatred of the French.
Interesting, man. Well, I definitely have to read your books now.
Yeah. If you're going to get any book, I would get Quest for Blackbeard because that one's got all the information and it's all the new information that nobody's ever seen about Blackbeard. So that's going to be the one that, and it's got all the family information. It's got the same info that the Blackbeard Revisited did. But it's also got all this other stuff.
Interesting. That's great. Where is a good place online for people to keep up with what you're doing and get all your stuff?
Well, I have a website called BaylusBrooks.com because I have such a strange name. BaylusBrooks. They can locate it that way. Or just look me up. You know, just do a search for me on Google and it'll tell you.
Fantastic. Good. Yeah, I will make sure that all that is linked up in the show notes, and we will get the word out and sell some books for you. That is great.
Thank you.
Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want everybody to know?
I think that Quest for Blackbeard is going to introduce a lot about Blackbeard that people didn't know. It also analyzes everything, probably in nauseating detail, but it analyzes everything about Blackbeard that has ever been spoken, and I basically just tear everybody a new one.
Okay.
I tear it all apart and I rebuild the whole thing. Like I said, I thought it was going to take a lifetime, but I got through it.
Fantastic. Oh, that sounds like it's going to be a great read, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Phil. I appreciate it too.
And there it is, friends. That is my interview with Baylus Brooks. And of course, you're going to want to go check out his website and pick up the books, all those books that we talked about. And his website is BaylusBrooks.com. Like he said, he's got a unique name, easy website to get. Baylus is Baylus. Brooks, like it sounds. Go to BaylusBrooks.com and check that out. Today's show is sponsored by Pirate Radio The Treasure Coast, WKKC-DB, playing the best music in pirate radio talk. And you can listen to this show under the Crossbones on both those stations. Just go to PirateRadioTheTreasureCoast.com or PirateRadioTC.com. And don't forget to download the apps, Pirate Radio Treasure Coast, which is the music station, and Pirate Radio Talk, which is the talk station. And you know who else I'd like to feature on this show? You. Yeah, you listening right there. You staring at your player right now, wondering why I'm talking directly to you. I'd like to feature you on the show. And here's how we do that. If you're going out to a pirate event, a festival, a gathering of some sort, or any other sort of piratey event, I'd like to hear a trip report from you. I think that would be fun. And if it's cool, we'll play it on the show. So here's how you do it. You're going to call and leave me a voicemail at this number, 408-599-2733. Again, that's 408-599-2733. Leave me a voicemail there with your trip report from whatever cool pirate festival, gathering, event thing that you went to, and if it sounds fun and interesting, I'll play it on the show for the folks. All right, I think that'd be fun. And if you got something to plug during that, feel free, plug away. Because what's life without plugs, really? It's a plugless life. But yeah, I want to play those voicemails. It's fun. And that phone number is not, don't worry, it's like not my cell phone. It's not, my girlfriend's not going to pick up and wonder who you are. It's the Google Voice voicemail. So it'll go straight to voicemail and you can leave me your message there. Okay. Again, I'm going to give you that number again. It's 408-599-2733. Here's another way we can get to know each other a little bit better. I want to find out a little more about you because I want to find out what I should be doing with the show, where I should be taking the show all around the country to do live podcasts, things like that. I need to know more about you, my audience member, my listener. Thank you for listening. So easy way we do that. Go. There's a short, quick, little tiny survey. It's like 7 questions. They're all easy, and it'll take you 30 seconds to do. Go to underthecrossbones.com/survey. That's underthecrossbones.com/survey and fill that out real quick for me. That would be a giant help. I appreciate it. And I have something else free to give you. See, you give me something, I give you something. That's what it's about, right? Givey. I have a free ebook for you. It's Alexander Exquemelin's Pirates of Panama or Buccaneers of America. And this is a great classic piece of pirate writing from the golden age of piracy, written by a guy who was on the pirate ships dealing with these dudes, right? So you got to check it out. It is a great book. You should definitely read it if you're a pirate fan. All I have to do, go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the free ebook button, and you will get it right there. Or if you're out and about and all you got your phone, just text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. Easy, right? Text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. Okay, that is our show for today, friends. Thank you very much. Again, if you want to find out more about my guest, Baylus Brooks, go to baylessbrooks.com and you can get his book. I'll also have the book, Quest for Blackbeard, linked up in the show notes at underthecrossbones.com/079. And we got a couple of weeks left on We have 1 week left on the giveaway from Pirata Clothing. So go check that out as well. You can go to underthecrossbones.com/win and enter the drawing for a free treasure box of cool stuff from Pirata Clothing. All right? And again, thank you for telling your friends. Keep leaving those iTunes reviews if you're an Apple person. Those iTunes reviews are lovely and help us very much. Make sure that you're subscribed to the show on whatever your podcatcher of choice is, whether that be iTunes, Slacker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, any of those fun places. We're there. All right? And until next week, I'll catch you then.